Explaining yourself too much is a silent form of giving away your power, because every unnecessary explanation shifts your position from inner authority to emotional defense. The moment you feel the urge to justify who you are, what you choose, or where you are going, you step out of clarity and into negotiation. You are no longer standing in your truth. You are asking others to approve of it. This habit often forms early in life, when approval feels like safety and disagreement feels like danger. Over time, the mind learns to explain before it even acts, to soften decisions so they appear acceptable, to dilute truth so it does not disturb others. What seems polite on the surface slowly becomes self-erasure. Power is not loud. Power does not argue. Power does not rush to be understood. When you explain too much, you invite judgment, debate, and control. You open doors that did not need to be opened. Instead of people meeting you where you stand, you walk backward to meet their expectations. Each explanation becomes a thread, and soon you are tied to opinions that were never yours to carry. Energy leaks out through words that were spoken not from strength, but from fear of misunderstanding. The need to explain is rarely about clarity, it is about discomfort. Discomfort with silence, discomfort with disapproval, discomfort with standing alone. But a disciplined mind understands that discomfort is not an enemy. It is a signal that growth is happening. When you resist the impulse to explain, you train yourself to sit in that discomfort without collapsing. You allow others to feel uncertain while you remain steady. This steadiness is felt immediately. People sense when your words come from grounding instead of anxiety. They may not like it, but they will respect it, even if silently. Over-explaining weakens communication. The more you say, the less weight your words carry. Strong words are few. They are precise. They come after reflection, not reaction. A person who is centered does not narrate their life. They act, observe, adjust, and move forward. They understand that those who truly matter do not require constant explanations, and those who demand them are often seeking leverage, not understanding. Every explanation given to the wrong person becomes information used against you, consciously or unconsciously. When you stop explaining, something changes internally. Your decisions become cleaner. You choose based on values rather than anticipated reactions. You stop rehearsing conversations that may never happen. Mental noise reduces, focus sharpens. Instead of spending energy on defending your choices, you invest it in living them fully. This creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates silence that feels solid, not empty. There is also humility in not explaining. You accept that being misunderstood is part of being human. You accept that you are not responsible for managing everyone's perception of you. This acceptance brings peace. You stop correcting every assumption. You stop clarifying every rumor. You stop proving your intentions. You let time reveal what words never could. Time has a way of aligning truth without force. A powerful mind knows when to speak and when to remain silent. It does not confuse silence with weakness. Silence is space. Space allows clarity to emerge. In that space, you observe patterns, motives, and reactions. You see who respects your boundaries and who resents them. You see who listens and who only waits to respond. This awareness is strength. It protects you from emotional exhaustion and keeps you rooted in self-respect. As you explain less, your presence becomes heavier. People feel it even before you speak. You are no longer available for unnecessary debates or emotional bargaining. You move with intention. You answer when it matters. You walk away when it doesn't. Over time, the habit of over-explaining dissolves, replaced by calm certainty, by actions that speak without effort, by a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. People don't misunderstand you because you're unclear, but because they listen through their own limits, their fears, and their conditioning. Every human being hears the world through an inner filter shaped by past experiences, beliefs, wounds, and expectations. When you speak, your words do not arrive in a neutral space. They pass through these filters, and what comes out on the other side is often a distorted version of what you intended. This is why two people can hear the same sentence and walk away with completely different meanings. The misunderstanding is not created by your lack of clarity, but by their inner landscape. When you don't understand this, you begin to blame yourself. You assume that if you just explain more, speak softer, choose better words, or give more examples, people will finally see your truth. This belief traps you in an endless cycle of clarification. Each explanation creates another question, another doubt, another demand. You begin to bend your message to fit someone else's comfort level, and slowly your original meaning gets lost. Instead of communicating from authenticity, you start translating yourself into versions that feel acceptable to others. A disciplined mind recognizes that understanding cannot be forced. Awareness must already exist in the listener for true understanding to happen. You cannot explain vision to someone who refuses to look, nor can you explain depth to someone who fears going beneath the surface. Their resistance shows up as confusion, criticism, or dismissal, but the root is the same. They are not ready or willing to receive what you are expressing. No amount of verbal effort can overcome that resistance. Misunderstanding often feels personal, but it is rarely about you. People react not to your words, but to what your words trigger inside them. Confidence triggers insecurity. Boundaries trigger control issues. Silence triggers anxiety. Growth triggers comparison. When you see this clearly, you stop internalizing reactions that were never meant for you. You stop taking responsibility for emotions that are not yours to carry. The more you grow, the more misunderstandings you will encounter. Growth separates you from familiar patterns. When you change, others must either expand or resist. Resistance often takes the form of misunderstanding. They say, "You have changed, become distant, become selfish, become difficult." What they really mean is that you no longer fit the version of you that was convenient for them. Explaining yourself in these moments only delays the inevitable truth that not everyone can come with you. There is strength in allowing misunderstanding to exist. It builds emotional independence. You stop chasing agreement. You stop needing everyone to see your perspective. You begin to trust your inner compass more than external feedback. This does not make you careless or unkind. It makes you grounded. You speak clearly once, maybe twice, and then you let go of the outcome. You understand that clarity offered is enough. Clarity accepted is not in your control. When you accept that people listen through their limits, your communication becomes cleaner and more intentional. You choose your words with care, but you release attachment to how they are received. You stop over-explaining and start embodying your values. Actions replace arguments. Consistency replaces persuasion. Over time, those who are capable of understanding will naturally align with you, and those who are not will drift away without conflict. This mindset brings peace because it removes the illusion that you must manage other people's perceptions. You stop defending your character. You stop correcting every misinterpretation. You allow time, behavior, and results to speak in ways words never could. In this space, your energy is preserved, your focus sharpens, and your sense of self becomes less reactive, more stable, more rooted in truth. Rather than approval needing validation forces you to shrink your true self, because the moment your worth depends on external approval, your inner authority weakens. Validation feels harmless at first. It shows up as wanting to be liked, wanting to be appreciated, wanting reassurance that you are doing the right thing. But slowly, it becomes a dependency. You start measuring yourself through reactions, expressions, silence, and tone. Your mood rises and falls based on how others respond. In this state, you are no longer living from your center. You are orbiting around opinions. The need for validation is rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being wrong, fear of standing alone. To avoid this fear, the mind learns to adapt. You soften your truth. You delay decisions. You agree when you want to refuse. You explain what does not need explanation. Each small adjustment feels insignificant, but together they create distance between who you are and how you show up. Over time, this distance becomes exhaustion. You feel tired without knowing why, because living out of alignment drains energy. When validation becomes the goal, authenticity becomes the cost. You begin performing instead of being. You watch yourself from the outside, adjusting behavior to maintain acceptance. This constant self-monitoring creates tension in the mind. You are never fully present because part of you is always checking if you are approved. This is not confidence. This is survival. And survival mode cannot support growth. A grounded person understands that validation is unstable. What pleases one person disappoints another. What is praised today may be criticized tomorrow. When you build your identity on something so inconsistent, you become inconsistent within yourself. Your values blur. Your direction weakens. You hesitate, not because you lack ability, but because you are waiting for permission that will never come in a clear form. Shrinking yourself does not guarantee safety. It only guarantees regret. Each time you ignore your inner signal to gain approval, you teach yourself that your own voice is secondary. The mind remembers this. Over time, intuition becomes quieter, not because it disappeared, but because it was repeatedly ignored. This is how people lose trust in themselves, not through failure, but through constant self-betrayal disguised as politeness. True strength develops when you remove validation as a requirement. This does not mean becoming reckless or insensitive. It means acting from values rather than reactions. It means doing what is right even when it is misunderstood. It means allowing discomfort without trying to escape it through approval. When you stop seeking validation, your actions become simpler. You choose because it aligns, not because it impresses. You speak because it is necessary, not because it is safe. As validation loses its grip, something shifts internally. You feel more solid. Decisions take less time. Doubt decreases. Not because you suddenly know everything, but because you trust yourself enough to move forward without constant reassurance. You become less reactive to praise and criticism alike. Praise no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer defines you. Both pass through without disturbing your center. People may notice this change. Some will respect it, others will resist it. Those who benefited from your need for validation may feel uncomfortable when you stop shrinking. They may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, becoming cold. In reality, you have become clear. Clear boundaries often feel like rejection to those who relied on your compliance. Living without validation creates space. In that space, your true self expands naturally. You discover preferences you once ignored, strengths you once hid, limits you once crossed for others. You no longer negotiate your worth. You no longer ask to be seen. You simply are. And that presence carries a quiet authority that does not seek confirmation. Silence and calm expose manipulation better than arguments, because manipulation feeds on reaction, not reason. When someone seeks to control, provoke, or confuse you, they rely on emotional movement. They want you to defend, to explain, to react quickly. The moment you react, they gain information. Your tone, your urgency, your choice of words all reveal where you are vulnerable. Arguments give manipulators exactly what they need: engagement, on their terms. Most people believe that clarity comes from explaining and defending. In reality, clarity often comes from restraint. Silence creates a gap. In that gap, patterns emerge. You begin to see repeated tactics, shifting stories, subtle pressure. Calm prevents you from being pulled into the emotional current that manipulation depends on. While the manipulator speaks to create imbalance, your stillness restores balance within yourself. Manipulation often hides behind urgency, quick decisions, immediate responses, emotional pressure. Calm dissolves urgency. When you slow down, the false importance fades. What felt pressing suddenly feels optional. This is threatening to anyone trying to control the outcome. They may increase pressure, change tactics, or accuse you of being distant. These reactions reveal intent more clearly than any argument ever could. Arguments blur truth. When emotions rise, listening falls. Even valid points lose strength when delivered in agitation. Manipulators know this. They provoke until you react, then shift focus from the issue to your reaction. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about facts, but about tone, attitude, or respect. Calm prevents this shift. When you remain composed, the focus stays where it belongs. If it cannot, that itself becomes information. Silence is not avoidance. It is observation. It allows you to see what someone does when they are not being fed emotional energy. Some people grow louder, some become defensive, some reveal contradictions. In silence, these behaviors stand out. When you argue, everything becomes noise. When you stay calm, truth becomes visible. There is also strength in choosing when not to respond. Not every statement requires a reply. Not every accusation deserves attention. Silence sets a boundary without explanation. It communicates that you are not available for manipulation, debate, or emotional games. This boundary is felt immediately. Those with honest intentions will respect it. Those with hidden agendas will be unsettled by it. Calm protects your inner state. Manipulation aims to disturb, to create doubt, fear, or guilt. When you stay calm, you deny access to these emotional entry points. You remain grounded in yourself rather than being pulled into someone else's emotional narrative. From this grounded state, decisions become clearer. You respond rather than react. You choose rather than defend. Many people fear silence because they associate it with weakness or loss of control. In reality, silence is control over oneself. It takes discipline to remain still when provoked. It takes confidence to not explain when accused. This discipline is felt. People sense when you cannot be easily moved. Over time, attempts to manipulate decrease, not because you confronted them, but because they no longer work. Calm also reveals your own patterns. In silence, you notice your impulses to justify, to please, to argue. You see where your ego wants to prove itself. This awareness is powerful. It allows you to respond from clarity instead of habit. You begin to trust stillness as an ally rather than a threat. When you stop arguing and start observing, conversations change. Some end quickly, others transform. What remains is clean, free of emotional hooks, free of hidden control. Silence and calm do not make you passive. They make you precise. They ensure that when you do speak, your words carry weight because they come from intention, not reaction. Not every question deserves an answer, and not every opinion deserves your energy, because attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every time you respond, you invest a piece of your mental and emotional focus. When that focus is given carelessly, it leaves you depleted without creating understanding or growth. Many questions are not asked to learn, but to challenge, to trap, or to provoke. Many opinions are not shared to add value, but to assert dominance or release insecurity. Recognizing this difference is a form of wisdom. A disciplined mind learns to pause before responding. It observes the intention behind the words, not just the words themselves. Is the question sincere, or is it loaded with judgment? Is the opinion grounded in curiosity, or is it seeking validation through disagreement? When you answer every question automatically, you surrender control of the interaction. You allow others to set the agenda for your time and attention. This is not openness. It is lack of boundaries. Boundaries are often misunderstood as coldness or arrogance. In reality, boundaries are clarity. They protect what matters. When you choose not to answer, you are not rejecting the person, you are prioritizing your energy. Silence, in this context, is a conscious decision. It says that your inner state is more important than winning an argument or satisfying curiosity that leads nowhere. Many people feel compelled to respond because they fear appearing weak or evasive. They believe that silence means losing. But true strength does not need to prove itself. Strength chooses where to engage. When you respond selectively, your words gain weight. They are no longer diluted by constant reaction. People begin to listen differently because they know you do not speak without purpose. Opinions are everywhere. Everyone has one. Most are shaped by personal experience, not universal truth. When you absorb every opinion, you fragment your sense of direction. You begin questioning decisions that were once clear. You second-guess yourself. This internal noise creates hesitation. By conserving your energy, you protect your inner compass. You listen when feedback is constructive and relevant. You let the rest pass without resistance. Learning to not answer is a skill. It requires emotional maturity. The ego wants to respond. It wants to correct, defend, and assert. Silence challenges the ego. It forces you to sit with discomfort. But within that discomfort lies growth. You realize that your worth does not depend on being right in every moment. You realize that peace often costs less than pride. When you stop engaging with every question and opinion, your focus sharpens. You become more present in your actions. You invest energy into what you can build rather than what you must defend. Life feels less heavy. Conversations become cleaner. Relationships either deepen through mutual respect or fade naturally without conflict. Selective engagement also reveals others' intentions. Those who value you will respect your boundaries. They will ask with care. They will listen. Those who seek control or validation may push harder. Their reaction tells you everything you need to know. You gain clarity without confrontation. This mindset creates space. In that space, you reflect before responding. You act instead of reacting. You speak when it aligns with your values. Over time, you become less emotionally available to chaos and more available to purpose. Your energy is no longer scattered across unnecessary debates. It is directed inward, strengthening discipline, focus, and calm presence. When you conserve your energy, you gain authority over your life. Your silence becomes intentional. Your responses become measured. You no longer feel pulled into conversations that drain you. You choose engagement not out of fear or habit, but out of clarity and self-respect. True power comes from alignment, not approval, because approval is external and unstable, while alignment is internal and steady. When your actions match your values, there is no inner conflict. You move forward with a sense of rightness that does not depend on applause. Approval changes with moods, trends, and convenience. Alignment remains even when you are alone, even when you are questioned, even when no one is watching. Many people confuse approval with safety. They believe that if others agree, they are protected from criticism or failure. This belief keeps them constantly adjusting themselves to fit expectations. Over time, they become skilled at reading rooms, predicting reactions, and avoiding discomfort. What they lose in this process is direction. When your choices are shaped by approval, you no longer know if a decision is yours or a response to pressure. Balajman requires honesty. You must be willing to see what matters to you without decoration or justification. This is not always comfortable. Values often demand sacrifice. They may require you to disappoint others, to walk alone, to delay gratification. Approval promises comfort in the moment. Alignment demands strength over time. One feels easy but hollow. The other feels heavy but meaningful. When you are aligned, your behavior becomes consistent. You do not change your stance depending on who is present. You do not explain yourself differently to different people. This consistency creates trust both within yourself and in others. People may not always agree with you, but they know where you stand. There is stability in this. Stability creates authority. Lack of alignment creates inner friction. You feel restless, distracted, and tense. Decisions take longer. Doubt appears even after you act. This friction is often mistaken for complexity or overthinking, but it is simply misalignment. You know what feels right, but you choose something else to maintain approval. The mind resists this contradiction. The body feels it. Over time, this resistance turns into fatigue. Balance simplifies life. Choices become clearer because they are filtered through values rather than reactions. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop seeking reassurance for decisions you already understand. This simplicity does not make life easy, but it makes it clean. Clean choices create momentum. Momentum builds confidence. When approval is no longer the goal, fear loses its grip. Fear thrives on imagined reactions. It asks, what will they think? What will they say? What if they disapprove? Alignment answers with, this is right for me. This answer does not eliminate fear, but it prevents fear from controlling action. You move with awareness instead of hesitation. People who live in alignment often appear calm, not because their lives are free of challenge, but because their energy is not divided. They are not constantly adjusting or defending. Their presence feels grounded. This presence influences the environments without force. Others sense it and often project strength onto it, even when the aligned person is simply being honest. Almisland also brings accountability. You cannot blame others for your choices when you are aligned. You own your direction fully. This responsibility strengthens self-respect. You no longer seek approval to validate decisions because you accept the consequences of your values. This acceptance builds resilience. As alignment deepens, approval becomes less tempting. Praise feels pleasant but unnecessary. Criticism feels uncomfortable but manageable. Neither defines you. You remain centered. You act, adjust, and continue forward. Your power is no longer scattered across opinions. It is concentrated in integrity, in consistency, in the quiet confidence that comes from living in truth rather than seeking permission. The essence of this message is simple but demanding. Power begins the moment you stop outsourcing your worth to other people. When you no longer feel the need to explain yourself, chase understanding, seek validation, argue with manipulators, respond to every question, or live for approval, your energy returns to where it belongs. You become quieter but stronger. Fewer words leave your mouth, yet more meaning stands behind them. As you let go of explanations, you gain clarity. As you accept misunderstanding, you gain freedom. As you release validation, you regain yourself. Silence sharpens awareness. Calm protects your center, and boundaries preserve your energy. You learn that not every interaction deserves access to your mind, and not every opinion deserves a response. What once drained you now passes without disturbance. Alignment becomes your foundation. Decisions are no longer made to be liked, but to be true. You move forward without announcing, without defending, without seeking permission. Your presence grows solid because it is no longer divided. Approval loses its power because integrity has taken its place. This is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about becoming rooted. rooted in values, in discipline, in self-respect. When you stand there, steady and unmoved, life responds differently. People sense it, chaos avoids it, and without force, without noise, without explanation, you begin to live from a place of real, unshakable power.